Hello everyone, welcome to Out of Spec Guide. I'm Max. I'm joined by my mom today.
Hi.
I'm visiting home, doing some traveling, but in the meantime, I figured I would talk to my mom about a situation she's got going on that I think will be informative for a lot of you. So Mom, you're getting your first electric car potentially.
I am. I'm still waiting to hear when exactly I'll get it. We put a deposit on a Rivian.
Yeah, an R1S.
Yes, R1S.
So
the SUV.
yeah, and you previously drove Volvo XC90 and now currently Land Rover Defender, a little bit of an off-road theme going on. This, of course, with the street wheels and tires and everything, but you enjoy this, it's a nice vehicle. Yeah. However, you've been thinking about that Rivian. How come?
First of all, I like the way the Rivian looks. I know it's kind of silly choosing a car just on the looks, but
a lot of people do that.
The number one reason. The second reason I like the fact that it's an American car. I just want to support local automakers if possible. Third, I've heard great reviews about it from you, and it just sounds like it's probably one of the best electric vehicles out there. And I definitely do want to do a switch to electric vehicles because I feel like it is the way of the future. I don't necessarily need to be the first one to adapt the new technology, but I don't want to be the last either.
Yeah, makes sense. You're not necessarily motivated to be an early adopter, but it seems like a great vehicle, and a lot of the difficulties with charging and all that could be avoided with home charging, which is an option. So in this video, we'll explore the home charging. We'll talk about your configuration at the end, but in the middle here, don't want to have a video without actually showing a car. So we have a neighbor who has an R1S, so I'm going to go over there, talk to him about getting it, because here, they're still kind of special, it seems like, Mom. Like in Colorado, I see them everywhere, whereas like at the moment here, okay, R1S, not the rarest thing in the world, but still.
I see them probably once every other day, not every day.
I see 20 a day in Boulder, so it's a little bit different. Yeah. But anyhow, I'll go over, see what he thinks of his, and then let's talk about the configuration you got. And today I'm actually I'm home, visiting my folks, and here back in the neighborhood, one of our neighbors, Oliver. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. You've picked up this Rivian R1S several months ago, right?
I did. I picked it up in December and have been loving it so far.
That's awesome. So this is your first electric vehicle. So I wanted to give the perspective of someone who, one, is adopting the first EV, happens to be a Rivian Launch Edition, quad motor, pretty sweet, but also, where I live right now out in Colorado, where we do a lot of our range testing and things. It's so common to see R1Ts, R1Ss. On the East Coast, I've seen a couple of them, but I imagine this is more of a rare quantity, and it's just a different environment for EVs. So I just wanted to kind of get your perspective today on adopting the R1S, what it's been like driving it, servicing it, owning it for the past few weeks now. So let's just start. What got you started, Oliver, with wanting an EV or wanting a Rivian specifically?
So just generally, I think the performance of them. A colleague of mine has one, and he launched me in it. And 0 to 60 in a 7,000-pound vehicle is pretty impressive. And so ever since then, I just thought it would be fun to drive, and it's just nice, economical for buzzing around the neighborhood. So. It's kind of interesting in that I think we were one of the first ones that I've seen in the area, and recently we've seen more and more popping up pretty quickly, and so it's becoming less of an anomaly. But it is still a lot of fun, and I have young daughters, and taking them around with their friends, and it's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, it's a mixture of kind of being economical, being almost physics-defyingly quick for its size. All of those things, I'm sure, are really fun. The thing I'm just curious about is, the way you got into this vehicle was interesting. I know you were an early, I guess you were on the order list before, and then you changed your mind, but then an opportunity came by?
Yeah, I got pretty lucky. I was on the order list, and I don't think it was going to come in anytime soon, so I was just getting frustrated, so canceled. And then a colleague of mine just mentioned that he had ordered one for his wife, and she didn't want it. And he spec'd it out exactly how I would have. And so next thing I know, I was driving up to New Jersey to to meet him, to pick it up.
Nice.
What's kind of interesting, on the way back, though, I had a suspension problem. So I started, so the other cool thing about it is just the technology is fantastic.
Yeah, the suspension design in these is, it shares some stuff with McLaren. It's pretty insane for a truck.
Oh, it absolutely is. And there's so many features on this. It's like just more things to break.
Yeah.
And so I did have to get it serviced like in the first week. week, but it was actually pretty smooth.
Okay,
Drove it
I
up
want
there.
to talk about that service experience, but first off, for the Rivian nerds, for the EV people out there, can we just go over this? This is a launch edition. Are you assuming, or is this on the 21-inch wheels? What's the general spec of this?
That's a good question. I think at 22-inch wheels, I believe, but I don't know.
You've got the 22-inch, yeah, like sport alloy wheels and all
Yep.
that.
Launch quad motor, obviously.
Yep. Dark interior.
Yep. I'm trying to the El Capitan, I think, is the color.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a really nice spec. But yeah, you mentioned the suspension issue you had driving it back. So that's been, I think, something I've, my mom's considering getting an R1S as well. And one of the things that you hear this happen with Tesla in the early days with these startup brands is, what is the service experience like, especially when you have a vehicle with all this complicated, new engineering going on? What was it like?
You kind of have to expect, with this many features, things to break.
Yeah.
And actually, my experience was pretty positive overall. I was pretty lucky in that, there are 2 service centers. So we live in Alexandria. There's one in Richmond, and then there's one in Gaithersburg, Maryland. And it just so happens the one in Maryland's by my office. And so
nice.
I dropped it off in the morning and went to work. And then the next day, went and picked it up, and they provided me a rental, and it was pretty smooth. I don't think it was anything major, just tweaks.
And this was still new enough that was warranty work.
Everything's warranty,
Nice.
for the most part. But I've seen stories about them bringing a flatbed to tow it, because it won't charge, and it seems like they take really good care of clients, and the overall experience was great.
Yeah, I've heard their service center experience has been just they take really good care of you. It's nice that the location's convenient. Maybe this isn't, you had the opportunity to try it with your friend before, but I know a lot of people are hesitant about buying a vehicle online in the position of, maybe I don't live near one of the Rivian spaces. We've got one in Denver. I think the closest one to here would have to be New York. So there's not really one in DC yet. So for people you just, talk to who may ask what it's like, what do you tell them in terms of trying it? I mean, obviously, you can give them a ride along in it, but what do you think it's like buying a vehicle in a market like this where someone can't just go into a dealer or a showroom and test drive one?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally you've just got to be, you've got to be willing to try something new, which is fun. And my wife is still getting used to it. But, it's like I kind of describe it as driving an electric golf cart, where you're not used to taking your foot off the gas and actually getting and it braking.
Right.
And so she's still getting used to it. But I think overall it's a lot of fun, and it's just a different experience, and not having to fill up with gas all the time, but also just the technology that's in there is just pretty awesome, and there's something new each time. The one thing I'm hoping for is more apps. Like I'd like the Sirius XM app. There's talk about Netflix going on there as well. Right now, you're kind of limited to Spotify. I
Right,
think,
because the Teslas, people like to play games and watch Netflix with the chargers on those.
Yeah.
This is your first EV. I'm curious though, what were you trading a previous combustion vehicle from this, or has another vehicle you've had? I know one of the contentious things on these Teslas too is they don't have Apple CarPlay, for instance, where you plug in your phone, you get those apps. I don't know if your previous vehicles have had that, or if you're used to that.
All of our vehicles have that, and I do kind of miss Apple Play. I also miss kind of hardwired stereo systems too. Everything's through Bluetooth on here.
Yeah.
And the other thing, we're going to keep our combustion cars. This was kind of we were lucky enough to have it as kind of a third vehicle to buzz around in.
Yep.
Because we still want a bigger car for long trips that you don't have to worry about charging and everything else. Even though it's pretty cool how the technology just can plan different stops for you throughout to make sure you're charged.
Yeah, I mean,
properly.
It sounds like you're well versed in the tech, but what was it like? You said, getting your wife used to one pedal driving, things like that are an adjustment, no doubt. But we can look at your home charging situation right now. It's temporary.
Yep.
But we always go on and on with folks about how important home charging is, considering that with an EV. So at the moment, can we go over what you're doing?
Yeah, all I'm doing, I just plugged it in the normal outlet here, and so we're trickle charging it. But I have an electrician coming out to run cables from our box around, and so we're going to have the Rivian charger on the side of the house.
Yep.
And then just plug it in there, which will be nice because I've had to take it to the Walmart a couple of times to charge.
Okay, Electrify America. That's not always the most fun experience.
No, it's not. But on the way back from New Jersey, I stopped at a Rivian charging station, and it was literally within 30 minutes at 75%.
Yeah, no, their chargers are very quick. I know it's pretty seamless, right? You just plug it in, it's built to your Rivian account. I've heard a lot of good things about how seamless those are.
Yeah, and I'm looking at getting an adapter for the Tesla superchargers.
Yes, because those are going to be sold this year. I know a lot of our EV nerds out there are excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that I think the adapter for superchargers will. I know you've got the GX or whatever the Lexus for road trips and stuff, but I imagine that would make this much more livable if you if you did decide to take this, take the dogs, take the kids in this, you could make it work.
Tesla, yeah, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
They're just everywhere.
Yeah. So I'm obviously still early into your ownership, but it sounds like you've had one service experience so far, all warranty work. That's been pretty easy. But yeah, just, you're looking forward to software updates, some more apps. I think, if I'm not mistaken, within the past 2 months, they've actually done some software updates on these. I know they've added some more screens and info. Have you already noticed any over-the-air improvements?
Yeah, I think one of the coolest ones is the screen that when you're when it tells you what drive mode you're in, and it tells you engine temperatures and has a compass on there, tire pressure. That's pretty cool to look at. And I mean, overall, I think they've done a really good job. Even the transfer of ownership was super seamless, and they seem to have kind of their finger on the pulse of what their owners want, and so it'll be exciting to see what they come out with next. Yeah, no, it seems like from the software tech, the infrastructure side of things, I've been really impressed with how they've scaled operations out, because I drive a Polestar, which was spun off from the Volvo brand, and it's very clear with them and a lot of legacy EV manufacturers or legacy companies who are making EVs, like Ford. I know a lot of those owners have had frustrations with having to take their car to the dealer to get software updates, like if someone has a Ford F-150 Lightning. That hasn't been the case with Rivian. Tesla obviously kind of pioneered that model, but I think it's nice that brands like this are thinking about that from day one. I'm just curious, before we end off, that transfer of ownership experience, you said that was really easy? It was a piece of cake. It just called them, and within, I think, 3 days they had transferred it. And then just getting the title was probably the longest thing that we had. Yeah. They've done a really good job, and it's just a great company as well. So I work for NASDAQ. They're listed on our market, and when they opened the market, I remember I was in New York, and there were trucks sitting outside, and they were just so impressive looking. They had the stove, the electric stove that popped out, and everything else.
That never came out, but yeah.
It never, yeah. Well, the one that was in New York had that, and it was just so impressive. And I remember, a bunch of my friends that morning bought the stock, so it's done well.
Yeah, no, it's an impressive vehicle, no doubt. And I don't know if you're following the news, but they're gonna be launching new stuff. I think next month they're announcing their the R2, which will be, I think, a lower cost, smaller version of this. And I've just been impressed as an EV owner, seeing a lot of people complain about, oh, my EV depreciated a bunch, the market's crazy. Every R1 owner I've talked to has been pretty happy with them, and relative to the market, they seem to be holding steady in valuation. They're finally able to produce these. So I know when you were getting it, it's still a bit of a squeeze. I think R1S, my mom's still waiting on hers, but if someone wants to get an R1T, I think they can lease them now pretty affordably. They're rolling out smaller battery configurations. It's just awesome to see them expand.
Oh, exactly. It's a great car.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're enjoying it, and thanks so much for sharing your experience with me.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we talked to Ollie, and their situation's really interesting. That was their first EV. He did a lot of research, though. They've got home charging on the way. That was funny. We have another neighbor with a Nissan Leaf, and he was saying sometimes he goes over there to charge because they're still waiting to get their full charging station set up.
We have a good neighborhood we share.
Yes, the strong community bonds here. And it's funny just imagining, I guess the Nissan Leaf, Rivian, they charge off the same level 2 AC charger, even though they have different DC chargers. But anyhow, here, Mom, we've got a NEMO 1450. You've got that installed in your garage already. So this is basically, in the US, we know this as a washer, dryer, appliance outlet, 240 volt. That's also conveniently enough power for electric vehicles, for their charging stations. However, there's a bit of an issue here, because where it's positioned in the garage, I pointed this out to you, Mom, with the Rivian, they put the charge port on the front. Because of that you can imagine can make an issue, right? Because if you pull in, let's say you pull into the garage, assuming some of this stuff is cleared, you have to basically snake the cord all the way.
I'm thinking maybe I'll park the car outside the garage and snake the cord underneath the garage.
Under the door, yeah.
Hopefully the door won't cut the cord or whatever. I guess I was just thinking that as long as we had the charger installed it should not be too hard to
Yeah.
figure out where to park.
Well, the cool thing is the Rivian comes with a cable just with the vehicle that you can actually plug into this. Now, it'll be 32 amps, so in nerd speak, that means it's not going to be the quickest charging. But with the vehicle as is, you can actually just plug it in as a temporary solution just perfectly fine. That's meant to be like a portable charge connector. But you got the Rivian wall connector, and that, I think, we're going to have to figure out.
Have to get an electrician.
Yeah, you have to get an electrician, or potentially maybe the stepdad can hardwire that. But basically, that requires a little bit more of an install. So that's something that
But I can
you'd be
use
facing.
that in the meantime.
Yeah, you can use this in the meantime with the included cable in the vehicle. And while you have the wall box, you just can't set that up until you can hardwire it. Some people.
Sorry to interrupt. When you say it's going to take a while to charge, like overnight?
It depends on how much you drive. So 32 amps, the math here, I think with charging the vehicle, you're going to get like, it would take you roughly to fully charge the battery at those speeds, 32 amps, let's see, that's 6 kilowatts. That's going to be 20 hours at least to fully charge, like close to a day. So you probably wouldn't have the vehicle close to empty. If you plugged it in at like half battery, by the time in the morning, it should be close to full charge.
I think for my driving needs, it's probably going to be fine.
You're
That's
gonna-
another reason why I think electric vehicle is a good choice for me personally.
Yeah, I think it's a very practical way to consider it. You know that you don't do a lot of long road trips in vehicles. You just drive in suburban, urban environments, not particularly long distances. Here where we are in the DC area, infrastructure is pretty decent, but I don't even imagine you'll be using fast chargers.
I'm not planning on it. I'm hearing all the horror stories.
Yeah, I was just talking to Ollie, was saying he's every now and then does have to go to Walmart, Electrify America, which doesn't sound like the most fun.
No, I'm going to try to avoid that.
Yeah, but totally easy to avoid that with short distances driving at home, even with that temporary 32 amp solution. But we've been teasing it. Let's just talk about what the actual spec you got is. The one that you ordered is a dual motor. Not the dual motor with performance either. It's only 4.5 seconds 0 to 60, still noticeably quicker than the Defender. But it's got that. It's got, I think, the 21-inch base street wheels. Of course, nothing off-road really spec'd on it. The Ocean Coast interior with some dark
I'm looking
accents.
forward to that light interior, yes.
Yeah, I think those are super nice. I know a lot of Rivian owners have been really happy, and I think the Ocean Coast interior looks so much brighter and just better than the straight dark interior. So I think that's a good
Having that
choice.
cool screen. That's another reason why I'm sort of gung-ho about electric vehicles, even though nowadays more people are turning away from them. I feel like it will force me to learn the technology that otherwise I would never learn, and I would just feel like I'm totally left behind.
So you kind of want to, like you said,
It's going to be a challenge for me
Okay.
to figure out that computer, but I think
Okay.
it would be a good challenge.
Yeah, you're not the first person on board, but you don't want to be the last person on board for transition.
Exactly.
Which perfectly reasonable. So there is a new standard battery, but the large battery is, I think, 350 miles of range. You can get a max pack with theoretically 400 miles. We've shown in our testing it's actually barely more, and it's a $10,000 upgrade. So I think that makes sense
worth it.
for very few people, maybe people towing who want the most range with their vehicle. But yeah, large battery pack, perfectly fine. If you wanted to save some money, you could also get that standard one. You're in the position, Mom, though. You've done a test drive. You've locked in that configuration. You're just waiting to get an order, to get a delivery.
Yeah, I'm checking my email every day. I haven't heard anything yet.
Yep. Well,
It's coming.
yeah, I mean, I think it'll come sooner rather than later. They're turning those around quickly. The struggle that Rivian owners had who were on the wait list for months, even years, was something else. At the moment, Ollie bought his a few months ago, and even when he bought his, his friend who he got it from could have easily probably flipped that and made some money. Those have held their value pretty well in what's been a pretty turbulent EV market. So it's good, I think, just for customers, for people, for you, for everyone, that people can finally get those vehicles. They're turning around the supply situation.
Yeah, we look forward to getting ours.
Yeah, so super exciting. So we'll maybe have some updates on that. But
Definitely.
yeah, EV charging, EVs, fitting them in your lifestyle. It's always interesting. So thanks for chipping in and sharing your experience, Mom.